So you're thinking about buying a home in Florida. I get it, but along with all that sunshine and those beautiful palm trees, there's let's call it a hidden issue that every single homeowner there needs to be ready for. And in this explainer, we are going to break it all down for you.
I mean, it is so easy to see the appeal, right? You've got the sunny skies, the incredible beaches. It's the classic American dream. But you know what happens when something starts to go wrong inside that perfect-looking house? Because hiding just behind that dream is a reality you have to be prepared for. It's a really unwelcome guest that can turn your perfect home into a massive headache. So let's meet it. Yeah, we're talking about mold. And look, in Florida, it's not just some little nuisance you might find in a damp corner. Oh no, it is a pervasive threat that every single homeowner absolutely needs to understand.
Now, don't get me wrong. Mold is a totally natural part of the environment outside. But the moment it gets inside your house, it stops being natural and it starts being a problem. A really big one. See, it reproduces by shooting these tiny spores into the air, and they can spread through your entire home.
So you might be asking, why Florida? Why is it such a hot spot for mold? Well, it really boils down to three key things. First, the humidity is just constantly high. It's exactly what mold loves. Then you've got the frequent storms and hurricanes, which are basically experts at pushing water into your home. And finally, the way so many homes are built, to keep that cool air in, well, that can also trap moisture inside, creating the perfect breeding ground. It is, literally, the perfect storm for mold.
And listen, this isn't just about ugly spots on your walls. The CDC is really clear about this. Mold exposure can have very real health consequences. We're talking everything from nasal stuffiness and coughing to much more severe reactions for people with allergies or asthma. So this isn't just about protecting a building, it's about protecting the people living inside it.
Okay, so you smell that musty odor, or maybe you see a suspicious-looking spot on the wall. What do? Let's dive into the practical side of this, how to figure out for sure if you've got a mold problem on your hands.
Now, a lot of people use the words inspection and testing like they're the same thing, but they are two very different, very important things. Think of an inspection as the visual hunt, the detective work, looking for signs of mold and moisture. Testing, on the other hand, is the science part, sending samples to a lab to figure out exactly what kind of mold you're dealing with and how much of it is in the air. You really need both to get the full story.
So what does a professional inspection actually look like? Well, it's a pretty systematic process. It all starts with a visual walkthrough. But then they bring out the cool tech, thermal imaging cameras to spot hidden moisture behind walls, and moisture meters to check for dampness in things like drywall and wood. And only after all of that will they collect samples for testing, but only if it seems necessary. It's kind of like a crime scene investigation for your house.
Of course, this all has a cost. And this chart gives you a pretty clear idea of what you can expect to pay in Florida. For a smaller home, you're probably looking at around $300 to $450. And naturally, as the square footage goes up, so does the price, just because there's more ground to cover. I know it seems like a lot, but trust me, it's an investment that can save you thousands down the road.
And why is acting fast so important? Because this is how quickly mold can start to grow after water gets in. Just 1 to 2 days. That is an incredibly short window, which is why you just cannot afford to wait around if you find a leak.
Okay, let's raise the stakes a bit. What happens when mold becomes a huge factor in one of the biggest financial decisions of your life? Buying or selling a home. This is where things get really serious for sellers. Now, Florida might not have a specific law that says you must disclose mold, but its general property disclosure laws are crystal clear. If a seller knows they have a mold problem, that's what's called a material defect, and they are legally obligated to tell the buyer. Trying to hide it can land them in a world of legal trouble. So as a buyer, how do you protect yourself? You use this incredible tool, the Mold Inspection Rider. Think of it like your own personal escape hatch. It's an add-on to your contract that gives you a specific window of time to inspect for mold. And if the cost to fix whatever you find is over a certain amount you agreed on, you can walk away from the whole deal without losing your deposit. For any savvy buyer in Florida, this is a non-negotiable. So here is your game plan if you're a buyer. First, don't just hire any old inspector. Get someone with specific mold experience. Second, make sure you ask them to test those high-risk areas, like attics and around the AC unit. And finally, always demand the paper trail for any past water damage or repairs. This is your due diligence, and it's how you buy a home with confidence.
Okay, so mold is confirmed. Now what? This is where we get into the nitty-gritty of getting rid of it, and hopefully, getting your insurance company to help pay for it.
When you're talking about insurance, the magic phrase you need to know is covered peril.
Insurers will typically only cover mold if it's the result of something sudden and accidental, like a pipe that bursts or a tree that falls on your roof during a storm. Basically, if the event that caused the water is covered, then the mold that follows usually is too, although often with some pretty specific limits.
But on the flip side, claims get denied all the time for issues that are seen as maintenance problems. A slow leak you ignored, really high humidity, or failing to report damage quickly. Insurance companies will often argue that these are the homeowner's responsibility, not some sudden accident. And that distinction is absolutely critical.
But hold on. Here is a powerful term you need to know: the ensuing loss clause. This can be a total game changer. It means that even if the initial cause of a problem isn't covered, let's say an old, corroded pipe that you were supposed to maintain, the damage that ensues from it, like the water damage and the mold that grew from it, might still be covered. It's a crucial detail to hunt for in your policy.
And when it's time for the actual cleanup, the pros don't just come in and spray some bleach. It's a whole multi-step process. They contain the area to stop the spores from spreading. They filter the air, they remove contaminated materials like drywall, they clean everything, and then they restore your home. It's a very thorough, scientific approach to make sure that mold is gone for good.
Finally, after all of that, how do you make absolutely sure you never have to go through it again? Let's talk prevention.
So, what's the long-term strategy here? It is all about controlling moisture. Simple as that. That means fixing leaks the second you find them. It means using the exhaust fans in your bathroom and kitchen every single time, keeping the humidity down with dehumidifiers, and just being proactive by regularly checking those spots you know are trouble, attics, crawl spaces, you name it. You know what they say, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure, and that has never been more true than with mold.
So, let's end with this question. Your home is so much more than just walls and a roof, right? It's your safe space, it's your sanctuary, and it's probably your biggest asset. Taking mold seriously isn't just about maintenance, it's about protecting that investment and the health of the people inside it from a threat that all too often goes completely unseen.